Hi everybody, I'm Gracious Kasheke. I'm a master's student here at Dalhousie studying pharmacology. I recently graduated from Dal Science, so I was hoping to chat with you today and give you a bit of an idea of what my experience was like as an undergraduate in Dal Science. So I graduated last April with an honors in neuroscience, and I hope to talk a bit about my experience in terms of my academic journey, my involvement in extracurriculars, as well as supports that we have that I found invaluable for me throughout my time at Dalhousie. And I'm sure that you know that your experience might be quite different than mine as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. But at the end, I'll also talk a bit about how Dalhousie, as in terms of students and faculty, um, have adapted to overcome these difficulties that arise with COVID-19. But in terms of my journey, I came to Dal from Halifax, Nova Scotia, so I stayed at home for university. And the main reason actually I decided to go to Dal was because of the undergraduate neuroscience program. So for me, that was the big pull. Um, I was actually at a Dal open house that I attended in my senior year of high school that I heard of the program. One of the professors that was involved in running the event talked a bit about neuroscience and psychology, as well as the differences between both of the fields. And I realized that I was very interested in neuroscience. So that really appealed to me. And the way I sort of, I guess, figured this out was by getting a good sense that the topic that was being discussed within that open house, so neuroscience, as the professor was describing it, um, was very much the same topic that I used to watch or spend a lot of time watching, sort of educational and cool science videos on YouTube about it. So I would spend, a good amount of my time looking at videos about new scientific discoveries and um, what I thought were cool science topics. And a lot of these videos were neuroscience videos. So I got a good sense that I was interested in neuroscience and I wanted to pursue that. And what was really cool for me is that the same professor was willing to answer my questions and chat with me after the open house event. Um, and they also gave me their email just in case I had any other questions. So I was able to ask more about the program and get a good sense of things. So this was good for me in that I got a good sense of the program by being able to ask these questions. But I also got the sense that the professors cared and would sort of ensure that if you had any questions, that they would answer those questions. Um, so I was excited to take part and go to Dal. And once I got here, of course, I was excited to start studying neuroscience. And I thought that I was pretty sure that I was interested in neuroscience, and that was going to be what I majored in. Um, but as in most of the programs within science, I started my first year within general sciences. Um, so essentially, I take all the base science courses that you would need for a neuroscience degree, so like calculus, chemistry, bio, of course, neuroscience and psychology. Um, and that gave me, I think, a good base to continue from. Um, and it also allowed me um, to to get a good sense of which topics I preferred and which topics I didn't prefer as much, or which topics I should continue to pursue within science. So I found that for the most part, I enjoyed neuroscience and cell biology units, um, and that gave me a good sense that I wanted to pursue neuroscience. I thought I could get the best of both worlds that way because cell biology is a huge part of neuroscience. So I thought if I could study neuroscience, then I can get the cell biology aspect of things as well as the neuroscience component. So after my first year, I found that there was certainly a shift. Looking back at my first year, there was certainly a shift in terms of difficulty and expectation coming to university. Um, so you could, it did depend a lot on, I would say, the teacher you had in high school, the teacher of the particular topics. If you had a really good chem teacher in high school, then shifting to the university uh, level of understanding wouldn't be too difficult. Um, but if not, then there's just a little more for you to make sure that you caught up on. But the biggest difference for me was that the way in which you learn. So there's far more freedom and independence, I would say, within university in comparison to high school. And I actually quite like that because it allowed me to go to delve deeper into any topics that I had an interest in. Um, and the other big thing is that if ever I did come across an issue, students and professors, other students, so upper year students and the students around me, as well as professors here, were really willing to help, which kind of goes against the notion that universities, very big institution, that nobody will give you the time of day, etc., which is the idea I had coming into university, or that the idea that was given to me of university before I got to university. But I really did find that there was a lot of support, and that you wouldn't be left in the dark if you needed any help. And so to complement these course-related interests, so I was finding myself more and more interested with the details of and the nitty-gritty of neuroscience. I also had professors and students around me who would help me sort of plan my degree, and they would inform me of extracurricular opportunities that were in line with my interests, and that were relevant for my future aspirations. Through advising it, I was able to learn of the volunteer lab opportunities that are abundant at Dalhousie, and also at the hospital here. And so I was actually able to get involved in undergraduate research from my first year, as early as my first year, and all throughout my 4 years. And I would say that it was one of the most valuable experiences of my entire degree. I was also introduced to community volunteer work, and again, this was through some older students as well as faculty members, so TA, through what's called first year interest groups, or FIGs. So these are small classes of within different fields, and they're just groups of interest within those fields. So it's essentially like, let's say 20 people are interested in neuroscience and the brain. There's a FIGS group for neuroscience, and it's just a smaller class where you show up. There's like no homework, no studying involved, but you talk about neuroscience related topics. So the FIGS I went into, of course, was the neuroscience FIGS, and a few of the leadership students within this FIGS. So one of the older students that were sort of running the FIG, they asked me to get involved in the Undergraduate Neuroscience Society. So this is again sort of student involvement from my very first year, and again, this is one of the components of my degree that I stayed with throughout all 4 of my years. So I was on the Undergraduate Neuroscience Society from first year to 4th year. And although academics, departmental society work and research really took precedence in my degree, I was still able to get involved in a whole host of other interests. So I played varsity athletics from second year on. I'm still playing with the Dallas soccer team currently. I participate in intramural sports, a lot of them. Gained teaching experience as a prefect, received TA experience, volunteered to provide food for those in need within Halifax, was an intern for the Surge program, and I even hosted and took part in a couple of podcasts during my time here at Dell. Um, and I want to make sure that this, or I guess this might sound a lot like I must be some hyper motivated person, but I really do credit every bit, like every one of the things that I've done. Um, I do credit this to mainly faculty members and administration at Dal, because I think they're the ones who, when they caught on to my interests, they were willing to do a bit of the legwork, or they already knew of opportunities that would be beneficial for me. They would be sure to share with me how to get involved in those opportunities, um, and allow me to pursue those interests throughout my degree. Um, and I do think that the curricular side of things, so actually taking the classes and the course content, that was huge for me, of course. But I would say that the volunteer, uh, as well as the just general involvement within society's extracurriculars, that was equally, if not more important, in just sort of personal development for me. So I'd highly recommend getting involved in whatever you're interested in. Um, and I'm very thankful that I had those people here that could help me do so. Um, I would say that anybody could do that as well. Sort of just pursuing their interest, because I wasn't some all-star student coming out of high school or anything like that. I just do think that the level of support that we have here, um, particularly the people, are just willing to help. Um, and so I would say that was the biggest reason that I was able to get involved in as much as I did. Um, and I guess that sense of community is what stood out to me the most in my 4 years at Dal. Um, so, and this goes for both the students as well as the faculty and professors. Um, but the best way for me to describe it was the way one of my introductory neuroscience professors did. And the way he described it was by saying that Dal is an ideal size for students, and that it has a great reputation and it's large enough that it's been receiving good funding and good resources and also attracting world-class professors. Um, but it's also not so large that you get lost in the sheer size of the university. So professors are very approachable, and they're always willing to help regardless of how busy they are. And I think that summarizes my experience very, very well. And again, as much as I would like to take credit for getting involved, as much as I have over the course of my degree, I honestly, genuinely think it was a product of the faculty mainly, but also senior students and other people around me that were invested in my success, and were helpful in allowing me to pursue my interests. Um, and I mentioned this before, but the same level of community exists among students. And I guess that's kind of expected. And so, you have people coming from all across Canada. And so a lot of people are looking for, essentially the new place. This is their home. It's a new place to call home. And so that I find does build a strong sense of community, in that everybody's sort of looking to find their group. And I would say it's quite a nice experience when you do start to fall into that group, and you get a good sense of where you belong. And I think that in my experience at least, this is a good place to do so. People are looking to do that, and to work together in doing so. And I know that certain things will be different for students coming in next year. I don't know, what it's going to look like with COVID-19 across Canada and universities. But so far here, I've never seen anybody work as tirelessly as the faculty and administration have been working over the past year through this COVID-19 pandemic um, to ensure that we still have this enriching online academic experience. I've genuinely not seen people work this hard. Um, so I think and hope that this would continue next year if it was necessary as a result of the pandemic. Um, and so I mean, just as an example, faculty, faculties and societies have started to implement these mentorship programs. And so essentially, lower year students can come in and they'll have somebody that assigned to them that can help them sort of navigate their degree. Um, if school's online, they can help them navigate that online aspect. They have somebody to go to um, sort of instantly for questions. So this is very similar to what happened kind of organically with me. Um, but it's just formalized in order to reach more students, which I think has been very, very beneficial based on what I hear from students. So that's it for me. I really hope that this little journey through my undergraduate experience was useful in helping illustrate that sort of no matter what your interests are, nor how many of them that you have, like in my case, there are people who are very willing to support you in pursuing these interests. And so whether you're, a super all-star out of high school or not, sort of like me, they're invested in helping you reach the potential that you have throughout your degree. Um, I thought it would be more honest and helpful to speak from my experience. Um, and so, I talked more about my experience than what I could speculate about your experience. But I hope it gave you a good idea of things in terms of the student experience. But anyways, thank you all for listening. And thanks for taking part in a virtual open house. It's much appreciated. Have a good one.